I stared at my phone screen, reading the message for the third time. The words hadn't changed, but each time they felt like a fresh slap across the face. Dad, Madison and I have decided we're doing Christmas with her family this year. They actually help us without all the strings attached and judgment. Maybe next year if things change. My son Connor, my only child. The boy I'd raised alone after his mother died when he was 12. The young man I'd put through university, helped with his first car, his wedding, his house. 7 years of monthly transfers, 7 years of being there whenever he called, and now I wasn't good enough for Christmas dinner. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter of my Calgary condo and walked to the window. December's snow was falling over the Bow River, the city lights reflecting off the fresh powder. I'd been looking forward to Christmas, had already bought gifts for Connor, Madison, and my 2 grandchildren, Emma, 6, and Jack, 4. The presents sat wrapped under my modest tree, tags carefully written in my aging handwriting. Let me back up and explain how I got here. My wife Sarah died 14 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. Connor was only 18, just starting at the University of Calgary. I was 50, working as a senior engineer at an oil company, making good money, but suddenly alone with a grieving teenage son. I threw myself into being both parents. I made sure Connor had everything he needed: tuition, residence fees, spending money, books. When he graduated with his business degree, I helped him get his first apartment. 6 months rent up front, furniture, a decent used truck so he could get to job interviews. Then he met Madison. I liked her at first. She was bubbly, pretty, seemed to make Connor happy. They got engaged fast after only 10 months. I had some reservations about the speed, but I kept them to myself. I didn't want to be that father. The wedding cost me $42,000. Madison's parents contributed exactly 0, citing financial difficulties. I didn't mind. Connor was my son. I wanted him to have a beautiful day. They bought a house 6 months after the wedding, January 2018. A 4-bedroom in the Northwest, Panorama Hills area. Nice neighborhood, good schools for future kids. The problem? They couldn't quite afford it on their salaries alone. Connor was working in sales for a telecommunications company, making decent commission, but it was inconsistent. Madison worked part-time at a dental office. Dad, we just need help with the down payment, Connor had said over coffee at my place. We've got the mortgage approved, but we're short on the 20%. Just a loan. We'll pay you back. The down payment was $68,000. I took it from my retirement savings. I was 56, planning to work until 65, figuring I had time to rebuild. Don't worry about paying it back right away, I'd told him. Focus on settling into the house. That was my first mistake, setting the precedent that my money came with no expectations. The grandchildren arrived, Emma in 2019, Jack in 2020. I was thrilled. Finally, family again. A reason to keep going after so many lonely years. I showed up for every birthday, every milestone. I babysat whenever they asked. I bought diapers and formula and toys. I was grandpa. It felt like purpose. But then the requests started coming more frequently. Dad, Connor's commission was low this month. Can you help with the mortgage just this once? David, the furnace died. We need $4,000 for a new one. Can you help? The truck needs a new transmission. $800. We're already maxed out on the credit card. Every request came with the same promise. We'll pay you back. And every time, I said yes. Because they were struggling. Because I had the money. Because I didn't want my grandchildren growing up in a house that was falling apart or, worse, getting foreclosed on. By 2021, the emergency help had become a monthly arrangement. Connor called it a temporary situation until Madison went full-time at the dental office, which kept getting postponed, first because of Emma, then Jack. Then Madison decided she wanted to go back to school for dental hygiene, which required daytime classes. I started sending $6,500 a month. Mortgage payment, both truck payments, yes. They'd bought a second vehicle, a new Ford Explorer for Madison utilities, property taxes. They kept the rest of their income for groceries, gas, and whatever else they needed. I told myself it was temporary, that I was helping them get on their feet, that once Madison finished school and got a better job, they'd take over completely. 7 years, 84 months, $546,000. I did the math one night last November when I couldn't sleep. Over $500,000. My retirement savings were gone. My pension would cover my basic needs. But the travel I'd planned with Sarah before she got sick, the RV trips across Canada, forget it. I'd be lucky to afford a modest retirement. And the gratitude? It had evaporated years ago. The requests had evolved from grateful to entitled. Dad, we need money for Emma's hockey registration. Dad, the property tax is due. Dad, can you send an extra $2,000 this month? We want to book a vacation to Mexico in January. Wait, a vacation? That was in October. I'd transferred my usual $6,500, and Connor had called asking for additional funds for a resort in Playa del Carmen. All inclusive. 7 nights. Connor, I'm not paying for a vacation, I'd said, trying to keep my voice calm. I'm helping with your essentials. Dad, we never get a break. We work hard. Madison deserves this. The kids have never been on a real vacation. I'm not made of money, son. I'm retired now. I'm living on my pension. You have plenty saved up. You always do. Besides, we'll pay you back. I'd refused. It was the first time I'd ever said no to a financial request. Connor was furious. He didn't call me for 3 weeks. When he finally did, it was to ask for the regular monthly transfer, as if the argument had never happened. I sent it, like always. Looking back, I can see how pathetic that was. But in the moment, I was terrified of losing access to my grandchildren, of Connor cutting me out completely. The judgment started creeping in around that time. Madison made comments, little digs during family dinners. Must be nice to have so much free time in retirement, David. I'm run off my feet with the kids. I bit my tongue. I'd offered to babysit regularly. She always had excuses for why it wouldn't work. You know, my parents never had the luxury of helping us financially. They taught us to stand on our own 2 feet. This, from the woman whose parents contributed nothing to her wedding and whom I was essentially subsidizing to the tune of $78,000 a year. Connor started parroting her talking points about how I was critical of their choices, how I didn't understand the pressures of raising kids in today's economy, how I had it so easy working in oil and gas in the boom years. I'd worked 60-hour weeks for 30 years. I'd buried my wife and raised a teenager alone. But sure, I had it easy. The texts about Christmas came last week. I was doing my groceries at Safeway when my phone buzzed. First from Connor. We need to talk about Christmas. Then, 20 minutes later, the bomb. Dad, Madison, and I have decided we're doing Christmas with her family this year. They actually help us without all the strings attached and judgment. Maybe next year if things change. I sat in my truck in the Safeway parking lot, the heat running, watching my breath fog up the windows. $78,000 a year for 7 years. And I was the one with strings attached. I was the one being judged. I drove home in a daze, made myself dinner leftover turkey soup, and ate it mechanically while staring at the wall. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching it. I was somewhere else entirely, somewhere dark and hollow. Around 8 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Madison this time. Also, David, we'll need the January payment by the 1st. Connor's commission check is delayed until the 10th, and our mortgage is due on the 5th. Thanks. Not please. Not I hope you had a good day. Just a demand. Casual. Transactional. Like I was a bank machine, and she was withdrawing cash. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I opened my banking app. I looked at my scheduled transfers. $6,500 on the 1st of every month to Connor's joint account. Automatic. Reliable. Expected. I pulled up my calculator. January. February. March. If I kept this up, I'd be sending them another $78,000 in the coming year. And for what? To be uninvited from Christmas? To be tolerated instead of appreciated? To be treated like an ATM with strings attached? My hand was shaking as I clicked into the transfer settings. Edit recurring payment. Are you sure you want to cancel this transfer? I thought about my grandchildren. sweet Emma with her gap-toothed smile, little Jack who called me Grandpa because he couldn't pronounce Grandpa yet. Would I lose them? Then I thought about Connor's message. They actually help us without strings attached. I clicked cancel. The screen confirmed. Your recurring payment has been canceled. I sat there for a moment, feeling like I'd just jumped off a cliff. Then I opened my text messages and typed a response to Connor. I've received your message about Christmas. I completely understand and respect your decision. I've also made a decision. Effective immediately, I'm canceling all financial support. I'm sure Madison's family, who help without strings attached, will be happy to step in. I wish you and your family well. Merry Christmas. I added Madison to the thread and hit send. Then I turned off my phone. I couldn't handle the response. Not yet. I needed silence. I needed to sit with what I'd done. I poured myself 2 fingers of Crown Royal, Sarah's favorite, and sat in my recliner in the dark, watching the snow fall outside my window. The next morning, I woke up on the recliner. My neck was stiff. The whiskey glass was still in my hand. Weak winter sunlight was streaming through the windows. I'd slept poorly, my dreams full of Sarah telling me I'd done the right thing, and Connor as a child, crying. I made coffee. Strong, black, Canadian winter coffee that could wake the dead. Then, with a sense of dread, I turned my phone back on. The screen lit up like a Christmas tree. 47 missed calls, 32 text messages, 6 voicemails, all from Connor and Madison. Timestamps showed they'd started coming in about 20 minutes after I'd sent my message last night. The most recent was from 6:30 this morning. I sat down at my kitchen table and started reading. Connor, 8:47 p.m. Dad, what are you talking about? Connor, 8:49 p.m. Call me right now. Madison, 8:52 p.m. David, this isn't funny. We have bills due. Connor, 8:58 p.m. Dad, seriously, you can't do this. We have a mortgage. Connor, 9:15 p.m. Fine. You want to play games? I'll call Mom's sister. She'll understand how you're treating us. That stung. Aunt Linda had been close to Sarah. Using her as leverage was low. The messages continued. Anger, disbelief, demands that I call them immediately. Madison sent a long paragraph about how they'd counted on my support and how I was abandoning my grandchildren. Around 11 p.m., the tone shifted to panic. Connor, 3 p.m. Dad, I'm serious. Our mortgage payment is in 6 days. Connor, 11:47 p.m. Please answer your phone. Madison, 12:16 a.m. David, we need to talk about this like adults. You're being irrational. Connor, 1:33 a.m. I can't believe you're doing this before Christmas. What kind of father are you? This morning's messages were desperate. Connor, 6:31 a.m. Dad, please. I'm sorry about Christmas. We can work something out. Just don't cancel the money. I listened to the voicemails. The first few were angry. Connor shouting about how I couldn't just abandon them. Madison in the background saying something about calling a lawyer. The later ones were different. Connor's voice cracking. Dad, please. We can't lose the house. Think about Emma and Jack. They're your grandchildren. The final voicemail was just heavy breathing and what sounded like crying. I set the phone down, made more coffee, stared out at the river. Part of me wanted to cave, wanted to call Connor and say it was all a misunderstanding, that the money would keep flowing, that everything was fine. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger over the past 7 years of being taken for granted, knew that if I caved now, nothing would change. I'd be right back where I started, funding their lifestyle while being excluded from their life. I didn't call back. Instead, I got dressed, put on my winter coat, and went for a walk along the Bow River pathway. The morning was cold, -15, but clear. The kind of Alberta winter day where the sky is impossibly blue and the snow crunches under your boots. I walked for 2 hours, thinking about Sarah, about what she would say. She'd always been better at boundaries than me. She would have seen this coming years ago and put her foot down. David, you're teaching him to be helpless. I could almost hear her voice. Love isn't the same as enabling. When I got home, frozen but clearer-headed, there were 17 more missed calls. I blocked Connor's number. and Madison's. I knew I'd unblock them eventually, but I needed space. Time to think without the constant barrage of panic and guilt. I spent the afternoon doing something I hadn't done in years, planning for myself. I opened a spreadsheet and calculated my finances. With the $6,500 a month staying in my account, I could actually rebuild my savings. In 3 years, I'd have enough for that RV I'd always wanted. The one Sarah and I had picked out from a catalog in 2014 before she got sick. I could take that trip across Canada we'd planned. Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, the Maritimes. Maybe even drive down to the States, Alaska, the Pacific Northwest. For the first time in 7 years, I felt something like hope. Christmas came and went quietly. I had dinner with my neighbor Bill, a widower like me. We watched hockey and ate too much ham. It was nice. Simple, no judgment, no demands. My sister called from Ontario on Boxing Day. Apparently, Connor had reached out to her, telling some story about how I'd cut them off without warning and asking if she could talk sense into me. "Did you really cancel their support?" she asked. I explained the whole situation. The 7 years, the $500,000, the Christmas text, the vacation request. Everything. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Jesus, David, I had no idea it was that much. Or that they were treating you like that. I should have set boundaries earlier." "Yeah, probably. But you did the right thing now. Don't back down." "I don't plan to." "Good. And David? Come visit us this summer. Drive out in that RV when you get it. The kids would love to see their uncle." We talked for another hour. It felt good, like I had family on my side. New Year's came. I'd unblocked Connor's number on December 30th, figuring enough time had passed. The calls and texts had stopped after Christmas. Radio silence for a week. Then, on January 2nd, a different kind of message. "Dad, we need to talk. In person. Can I come over Saturday?" I thought about saying no, about maintaining the distance, but I was curious. And, despite everything, he was still my son. Saturday at 2. Just you. Saturday afternoon, Connor showed up at my door. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. He'd lost weight. His usual confident swagger was gone. I let him in, made tea. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where he'd done his homework as a kid. "The bank called," he said finally. "We're 3 months behind on the mortgage now. They've started foreclosure proceedings." I sipped my tea, said nothing. Madison's parents can't help. They're broke, like always. My credit cards are maxed. I borrowed from work against my commission, and I'm still short. What about Madison's family? The ones who help without strings? He flinched. "That was shitty of us." "I know. Madison was. She was angry that you'd said no to the vacation. She felt like you were trying to control us. By not paying for your resort holiday? I know how it sounds now." "Do you?" He looked down at his hands. "We got used to it. The money. It was just always there. Like it would never stop. We didn't even think about what we were spending it on. Madison wanted the new Explorer. I wanted the bigger TV. We took the kids to Disney World last March." "You went to Disney World? You didn't know?" "Connor, I thought I was paying for your mortgage and utilities. Your essentials." "You were, but we had 2 incomes. We spent all of ours on other stuff, because we knew the important bills were covered." I felt my jaw tighten. "So while I was draining my retirement savings, you were going to Disney World." I didn't think of it that way. "I'm sorry, Dad. I really am." We sat in silence. The clock on my wall ticked loudly. "What do you want from me?" I asked finally. "I don't know. I can't ask you to help anymore. I know I don't deserve it. I wanted you to know I understand now. What we did, what we took for granted." "Are you going to lose the house?" "Probably. We're looking at rentals. Cheaper. We'll have to pull Emma out of hockey, sell the Explorer. Madison's looking for full-time work." "What about her school?" "She dropped out. We need the income more." I should have felt vindicated. This was exactly the wake-up call they needed. But looking at my son, really looking at him, I just felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that 7 years of generosity had bred entitlement instead of gratitude. "Connor, I want you to understand something. I don't hate you. I'm not punishing you. I'm just done being taken for granted. Done being treated like a bank machine. Done being excluded from your life, except when you need money. His eyes were wet. I know. We were terrible to you. Madison knows it too. She's been crying for days. She's so ashamed of that Christmas text. Is she? She is. She wanted to come today, but I told her you'd probably just want to talk to me. That was smart. He wiped his eyes. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you still want to be in our lives? In the kids' lives? Or is this it? I thought about Emma and Jack. About missing their childhood because of pride or hurt feelings. I want to be in their lives, but on different terms. I'm not an ATM. I'm their grandfather. If you want me around, I need to be treated like family, invited to things, included, valued for more than my bank account. Yes, absolutely. I'll talk to Madison. And Connor, I'm not resuming the monthly payments. Not ever. You're 32 years old. You have 2 incomes. You need to learn to live within your means. I understand. Do you? Because you've been saying you'll pay me back for 7 years and I haven't seen a single dollar. He nodded miserably. I know. I'm going to figure out a way to pay you back, even if it takes the rest of my life. I'm not holding my breath, but I appreciate the sentiment. We talked for another hour. Not about money, about Emma's school play, about Jack learning to skate, about Connor's job and his hopes for a promotion. Normal father-son stuff. When he left, he hugged me at the door. I love you, Dad. I'm sorry I didn't show it better. I love you too, son. That was 3 weeks ago. They're losing the house. Moving into a townhome rental in the Northeast. Cheaper area, smaller space, but they can afford it on their own. Madison got a full-time job as a receptionist at a physio clinic. Connor's commission has been better. He's been working harder, knowing there's no safety net. I saw the kids last weekend. Just a Sunday afternoon at my place. We made cookies and watched a movie. Emma told me about her new school. Jack showed me his loose tooth. It was normal. Nice. Madison apologized. Really apologized. Tears and everything. Said she'd been entitled and spoiled and she understood if I never forgave her. I told her we'd take it one day at a time. I don't know if Connor will ever pay me back the money. Probably not. That's okay. I've made my peace with it. It was an expensive lesson for both of us. But I've ordered the RV, a used 2019 model, 26-footer, picking it up in March. I'm planning a trip to the East Coast this summer. Maybe Connor and the kids can join me for part of it. We'll see. For now, I'm focused on me, on rebuilding what I lost, on living the life Sarah and I planned before cancer stole her away. And every time I look at my bank account and see that $6,500 still sitting there at the end of the month, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Freedom.